The phone call that shattered Natasha's world came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button for more stories. She had been lying in bed, one hand resting on her 7-month pregnant belly, when she heard Brandon's voice drifting from their bedroom down the hall. At first, she smiled. Her husband often took late business calls, but something in his tone made her pause. "The problem needs to disappear permanently," Brandon was saying, his voice cold in a way she'd never heard before. "Tonight." Natasha's heart began to race. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. The baby kicked inside her as if sensing her fear. "I've been patient long enough. The vitamins aren't working fast enough. We need a more direct approach." "Vitamins?" Natasha pressed herself against the wall outside their bedroom door, her breathing shallow. What vitamins was he talking about? "Yes, I understand the risks, but she's becoming suspicious. And if the baby survives—" His voice trailed off, then hardened. "Make it look like an accident, a fall down the stairs, something believable." The world tilted beneath her feet. Her husband was talking about killing someone. But who? And what baby? The pregnancy was never part of the plan, Brandon's voice grew angry. She was supposed to lose it months ago. Those special prenatal vitamins should have taken care of everything quietly. Natasha's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. Her prenatal vitamins. The ones Brandon insisted she take every morning. The ones that made her feel dizzy and sick beyond normal pregnancy symptoms. He was talking about her, about their baby. "I don't care what it costs. I want this handled tonight. She knows too much, and the kid will only complicate things later. My business empire can't have loose ends." Natasha's legs gave out. She slumped against the wall, her mind reeling. The man she'd loved for 3 years, the man she'd married, the father of her unborn child, was planning to murder them both. "Good. Make sure there's no evidence. And Carlos? Make it painful. She's caused me enough trouble." The bedroom door handle turned. Natasha scrambled to her feet, but it was too late. Brandon stepped into the hallway and froze when he saw her pale, terrified face. 6 months earlier, Natasha had been the happiest woman alive. She stood in their marble bathroom, staring at the pregnancy test with tears of joy streaming down her face. 2 pink lines. After trying for over a year, it was finally happening. "Brandon," she called out, her voice echoing through their spacious home. "Brandon, come here." He appeared in the doorway, still wearing his expensive suit from another successful business meeting. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his smile warm and loving. This was the Brandon everyone knew. Charming, successful, devoted husband. "What is it, sweetheart?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Natasha held up the test, watching his face in the mirror. For just a split second, something flickered across his features. But then his smile widened, and he spun her around. "Really? We're having a baby?" His excitement seemed genuine. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "This is incredible, Nat. You're going to be an amazing mother." That evening, they celebrated at Romano's, the finest restaurant in the city. Brandon ordered champagne for himself and sparkling cider for her, toasting their future family. Other diners smiled at the glowing couple, whispering about how perfect they looked together. "I want to give this baby everything," Brandon said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "The best schools, the best opportunities, nothing will be too good for our child." Natasha's heart swelled. This was why she'd fallen in love with him. His ambition, his drive to provide, his protective nature. "Mr. Williams." They both looked up to see a tall man with sandy brown hair approaching their table. Natasha recognized him immediately, Alexander Kane, Brandon's former business partner. She'd met him briefly at a few social events, but Brandon always seemed tense around him. "Alex," Brandon's voice cooled noticeably, "what do you want?" Alex's eyes moved to Natasha and his expression softened. "I heard congratulations are in order. You're expecting?" "We are," Natasha smiled, placing a protective hand over her still flat stomach. "Thank you." "That's wonderful news," Alex said, and something in his tone made her look at him more closely. There was genuine warmth there, but also concern. Children are precious gifts. They should be protected at all costs. Brandon stood abruptly. "If you'll excuse us, we were having a private celebration." "Of course," Alex nodded, but his eyes remained on Natasha. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Williams. And if you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to call." He handed her a business card before Brandon could object, then walked away. "What was that about?" Natasha asked, studying the card. Brandon's jaw was tight. "Alex has always been jealous of what I've built. Don't let him fool you with his concern. He'd love nothing more than to destroy our happiness." Natasha tucked the card into her purse, thinking about the genuine worry she'd seen in Alex's eyes. She should have paid more attention to that warning. 3 months into her pregnancy, Natasha's world began to crack around the edges. It started with the dizziness. Every morning after taking her prenatal vitamins, waves of nausea would hit her so hard she could barely stand. Dr. Hayes assured her it was normal, but something felt wrong. "The morning sickness should be getting better by now," Natasha told Brandon one evening, gripping the bathroom counter as another spell hit her. "Every pregnancy is different, sweetheart," he said, rubbing her back. "You're just sensitive. That's why I got you those special vitamins. They're supposed to be gentler on your stomach." Natasha nodded weakly, but doubt gnawed at her. The vitamins Brandon insisted she take were different from the ones Dr. Hayes had recommended. When she'd asked about it, Brandon explained they were a premium brand, better for the baby. The memory problems started next. Simple things at first, forgetting appointments, losing her keys, blanking on conversations she'd had the day before. Brandon was patient, even amused. "Pregnancy brain," he'd laugh, kissing her forehead. "It's completely normal." But Natasha had always been sharp, organized. This felt like losing pieces of herself. One afternoon, while Brandon was at work, she decided to surprise him by organizing his home office. She was dusting his desk when she knocked over a small bottle. Pills scattered across the floor. White tablets that looked nothing like any medication she recognized. She gathered them up quickly, studying the unmarked bottle. There was no label, no prescription information. When she Googled the numbers stamped on the pills, her blood ran cold. They were industrial chemicals, used in manufacturing. Why would Brandon have them? That evening at the charity gala, Natasha felt eyes on her. She turned to find Alex Kane watching her with concern from across the room. When their eyes met, he approached carefully. "Mrs. Williams, you look pale. Are you feeling all right?" "Just tired," she said, though she appreciated his genuine worry. "Pregnancy, you know." Alex's expression darkened slightly. "How has Brandon been treating you? I mean, is he taking good care of you during this time?" The question struck her as odd. "Of course, he's very protective." "Sometimes protection can go too far," Alex said quietly. "If you ever feel unsafe, or if anything seems wrong, please remember what I told you. Call me." Before she could respond, Brandon appeared at her side, his hand possessive on her lower back. "Kane, I thought I made it clear you weren't welcome around my wife." "Just being neighborly," Alex replied, but his eyes stayed on Natasha. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Williams." As Alex walked away, Brandon's grip tightened. "What did he say to you?" "Nothing important," Natasha lied, but her mind was racing. That night, she pretended to take her vitamins, palming them instead. For the first time in weeks, she woke up without dizziness. The pills Brandon gave her weren't vitamins at all. The hospital room smelled like disinfectant in fear. Natasha lay in the narrow bed, watching Dr. Hayes frown at her test results. She'd collapsed at home 3 days ago, and the blood work had revealed something troubling. I'm seeing elevated levels of several concerning substances, Dr. Hayes said carefully. Heavy metals, some industrial compounds. Have you been exposed to anything unusual? Construction sites, chemical plants? No, Natasha whispered, her hand protectively covering her belly. I barely leave the house anymore. Brandon squeezed her other hand. Could it be something in our water? Or maybe the renovation next door? Dr. Hayes looked puzzled. These levels suggest ongoing exposure over weeks, possibly months. We need to identify the source immediately. It could harm the baby. After the doctor left, Brandon paced the small room. This is insane. How could you be exposed to industrial chemicals? Natasha watched his performance, remembering the unmarked pills in his office. Brandon, those vitamins you've been giving me. What about them? His voice sharpened slightly. Where did you get them? They're not the brand Dr. Hayes recommended. I told you, they're a premium brand, much better quality. He sat beside her, taking her hand. Nat, you're scaring me with these questions. The stress isn't good for the baby. But Natasha had stopped taking the pills 3 days ago, and her mind felt clearer than it had in months. I want to see the bottle, the ingredients list. Brandon's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course, I'll bring it tomorrow. That evening, Alex appeared in her doorway. Brandon had stepped out to get coffee, and visiting hours were nearly over. I heard you were in the hospital. Are you all right? Chemical poisoning, she said, studying his face. Someone's been slowly poisoning me and my baby. Alex's expression went dark. Natasha, I need to tell you something about Brandon. Things you might not want to hear. What things? I've been investigating his business dealings, the construction contracts, the city permits. There's money laundering involved. Dangerous people. But that's not what worries me most. It's how he's been acting around you. What do you mean? I've seen him with other women, Natasha, before you were married, during your engagement. But more than that, I've seen him lose his temper, really lose it. There's a darkness in him that he hides well. Natasha's heart pounded. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you're in danger. Real danger. He pulled out his phone. I have a friend on the police force, Officer Chen. She's been building a case against Brandon's business associates. If you're being poisoned, you think Brandon is doing this to me? Alex's silence was answer enough. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Alex quickly pressed a card into her hand. Officer Chen's number. Call her if anything happens. Anything at all. Brandon appeared in the doorway, his smile not reaching his eyes. Visiting hours are over, Kane. As Alex left, Natasha clutched the card, finally understanding the true meaning of fear. The cabin sat isolated in the mountains, surrounded by towering pines that blocked out most of the sunlight. Brandon had insisted they come here for her health, away from the city's pollution that was supposedly making her sick. Natasha knew better now. Isn't this perfect? Brandon said, carrying their bags inside. Just you, me, and our baby. No distractions, no stress. The cabin felt like a trap. No cell phone signal, no neighbors for miles, and Brandon had insisted on driving, so she had no way to leave. She was 6.5 months pregnant now, her belly round and heavy, making it hard to move quickly. I brought your vitamins, Brandon said that evening, setting the familiar bottle on the kitchen counter. You missed your dose yesterday at the hospital. She stared at the pills. I don't want to take them anymore. Brandon's smile faltered. What do you mean? They make me sick. Dr. Hayes said the chemical levels in my blood were dangerous. Those tests were wrong, Brandon said firmly. These vitamins are keeping you and the baby healthy. No, Natasha backed away from him. I know what you've been doing, Brandon. Those aren't vitamins. The mask finally slipped. Brandon's face went cold, his eyes empty of any warmth she'd ever seen there. You were always too smart for your own good, he said quietly. Why? Natasha whispered. Why would you hurt our baby? Brandon laughed, a sound that chilled her blood. Our baby? Natasha, this pregnancy was never part of my plan. Do you have any idea how much money I move through my business? How many important people depend on me staying focused? You're talking about laundering. I'm talking about building an empire. And babies make men weak. They create vulnerabilities. He stepped closer. I tried to handle this quietly. Those pills should have caused a miscarriage months ago. Natural, tragic, but clean. Natasha's hand flew to her belly. You've been trying to kill our baby this whole time. I've been trying to protect our future. But you had to get suspicious, didn't you? Had to stop taking your medicine? His voice turned dangerous. Now I have to find another solution. Natasha ran for the door, but Brandon caught her easily. The deadbolt was locked, and he had the key. Where are you going, sweetheart? We're in the middle of nowhere. She tried the windows, but they were painted shut. The phone line had been cut. Brandon watched her panic with cold amusement. Sit down, Natasha. We need to discuss how this is going to end. People will look for me. Alex knows where I am. Alex Kane? Brandon's laugh was cruel. Alex is about to have an unfortunate accident of his own. Carlos is handling that as we speak. Natasha sank into a chair, her baby kicking frantically as if sensing the danger. You're insane. I'm practical. Brandon pulled out a pen and paper. Now, you're going to write a note. Something about being overwhelmed, unable to cope with motherhood. Very sad, very believable. Outside, a car engine rumbled in the distance. The sound of gravel crunching under tires made Brandon freeze. He moved to the window, peering through the dusty curtains. Expecting someone? Natasha asked, hope flaring in her chest. Stay quiet, Brandon hissed, pulling a gun from his jacket. Natasha's blood turned to ice. She'd never seen him with a weapon before. A car door slammed outside, then another. Heavy footsteps approached the cabin. Brandon, a voice called out. It's Carlos. We have a problem. Brandon relaxed slightly and opened the door. Carlos Mendez stepped inside, his clothes torn and bloody. Behind him was another man Natasha didn't recognize. What happened to you? Brandon demanded. Kane happened, Carlos spat. He was ready for us, had backup waiting. Tommy's in the hospital, and Kane got away. Brandon's face darkened. You let him escape? He's tougher than we thought, but don't worry, he won't get far. We damaged his car pretty good. Natasha's heart sank. Alex had tried to help her, and now he was hurt, possibly dying somewhere in these mountains. Change of plans, Brandon said. We handle this tonight. Make it look like a hiking accident. She fell, hit her head, tragic loss of mother and child. What about Kane? If he's still alive, he'll come looking for her. We'll be ready. As if summoned by their words, a loud crash echoed from the back of the cabin. Brandon spun around, gun raised. Check the back door, he ordered Carlos. But instead of Carlos's voice, they heard a different sound, the back door splintering open. Alex Kane stumbled into the cabin, his face bruised and bleeding, his shirt torn, but his eyes were alert and focused on Natasha. Let her go, Brandon, Alex said, his voice steady despite his injuries. Brandon laughed. You're in no position to make demands, Kane. You're outnumbered and outgunned. Maybe, but I'm not alone. As if cued, red and blue lights flashed through the windows, car doors slammed outside, and a voice called through the megaphone. This is the police. The cabin is surrounded. Carlos cursed and moved toward the back door, but Alex blocked his path. Officer Chan got my message. She's been building a case against you for months. The poisoning was just the final piece she needed. Brandon's face twisted with rage. You think you've won? Even if they arrest me, Natasha knows too much. She'll never be safe.
Yes, she will, Alex said firmly, because you're going to prison for the rest of your life. Brandon raised his gun toward Natasha, but Alex lunged forward. The two men crashed into the coffee table, fighting for control of the weapon. Natasha pressed herself against the wall, her baby kicking wildly. Pain shot through her abdomen, sharp, intense contractions that made her gasp. "Alex," she cried out, "the baby's coming." The gun went off, the sound deafening in the small cabin. For a terrifying moment, Natasha couldn't tell who had been shot. Then Alex stood up, breathing hard, the gun in his hands. Brandon lay motionless on the floor.
The cabin door burst open as Officer Chen and her team stormed inside, weapons drawn. They found Alex kneeling beside Natasha, who was doubled over in pain, while Carlos sat in the corner with his hands raised in surrender. "We need an ambulance," Alex shouted. "She's in labor." Brandon lay unconscious on the floor, blood seeping from a head wound where he'd struck the coffee table during their struggle. The gun had fired harmlessly into the ceiling. "It's too early," Natasha gasped between contractions. "The baby isn't due for 2 months." "The stress triggered premature labor," Officer Chen said, radioing from medical support. "Help is coming." Alex took Natasha's hand, his own still shaking from adrenaline. "You're going to be okay, both of you." The next few hours blurred together. The ambulance ride down the mountain, Alex never leaving her side. The emergency room, where Dr. Hayes waited with a full medical team. The intensive care unit, where Natasha's daughter was born, weighing just 4 pounds, but breathing on her own. "She's beautiful," Alex whispered, looking through the nursery window at the tiny baby in the incubator. "She's a fighter, just like her mother." Natasha smiled weakly from her wheelchair. The doctor said she would recover fully from the poisoning now that they knew the source. Her daughter would need to stay in the hospital for several weeks, but the prognosis was good. "I can't believe it's over," she said. Officer Chen approached them with a folder in her hands. "Brandon's awake and talking. He's confessed to everything. The poisoning, the money laundering, the conspiracy with Judge Sterling. Carlos is cooperating too, giving us names of everyone involved in the operation." "What will happen to him?" "Multiple life sentences, most likely. Attempted murder, conspiracy, racketeering. He'll never hurt you or anyone else again." 3 months later, Natasha sat in her new apartment, watching her daughter sleep peacefully in her crib. Baby Hope. She'd named her Hope because that's what Alex had given her when everything seemed lost. A soft knock at the door made her look up. Alex stood in the doorway holding coffee and pastries from her favorite bakery. "How are my girls today?" he asked, setting the food on the kitchen counter. "We're good," she said, meaning it for the first time in months. "Hope gained another ounce this week." Alex had been there through everything. The trial, the sleepless nights when Hope was still in the hospital, the therapy sessions to help Natasha heal from the trauma. He never pushed for more than friendship, but his presence was steady and comforting. "I have news," Alex said carefully. Brandon's appeal was denied. The conviction is final. Natasha nodded, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "Good. I can finally stop looking over my shoulder." "There's something else," Alex said, his voice softer. "I know this might be too soon, and I don't want to pressure you, but..." "What is it?" "I've been offered a job in Seattle. Good opportunity, but it would mean leaving here, leaving you and Hope." He looked down at his hands. "I wanted you to know before I made any decisions." Natasha studied his face, the kindness in his eyes, the way he'd risked everything to save her and her daughter. Brandon had shown her what false love looked like. Alex had shown her what real protection meant. "What if we came with you?" she said quietly. Alex's eyes widened. "Natasha? I'm not ready for anything romantic yet. Maybe I won't be for a long time. But Hope needs good people in her life. And so do I." Alex smiled,
the first truly happy expression she'd seen from him since all this began. "I'd like that very much." Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of hope and new beginnings.